All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're taking a look at this heater. This is made by Vevor, and this is actually runs on diesel. So it actually has a little, about a gallon of diesel fuel that you put in the tank here, and then it blows out hot air through the tube. So this is a great little heater for like small spaces. Let's say you have a garage, a shed, so some kind of detached building, camping, RVs, trailers, things like that. This is kind of a cool solution for that. So let's get in. I want to show you exactly what's included with the kit that you get. This is the 8 kilowatt heater. So I want to show you what you get with the kit, and then we're going to show you kind of some options and talk about where and how you could use this, and then we're going to test it out. So here's the actual unit you get. It's pretty small, pretty compact, lightweight. It does have the diesel fuel. This is where you put your diesel fuel right here, and it has these latches. You can take the cover off, and I want to show you exactly what this is as we get the cover off. So if we pull this cover off, you can actually see the internal workings of this. So this tank on top, this clear plastic tank here, this is where you put the diesel fuel. So we would fill this up with diesel fuel. It looks to be around a gallon, maybe a little bit less than a gallon of diesel fuel that this would hold. This black portion right here, this is the heat exchanger. This is the combustion chamber where the diesel fuel is burned. Cold air is sucked in through this. Cold air is sucked in through this side, and it passes through the heated coils, and then it blows out this side. So pretty straightforward. And this tank actually is really not on here, mounted on here. You could actually mount this separately. If you just got some larger fuel hose, you could mount this in a different location, and have it feed down to the combustion chamber here. Digital display, this is where we turn it on. We can adjust the temperature, the fan speed, the kilowatt output on this, and then it also has a little remote control. So if this is mounted in a outside location, you don't have to go out and change the speed or turn it on or off. You actually have a little remote. You could do all the adjustments from right here. So that's pretty cool. Now there's a couple things you need to get this installed, and one is you need to have battery power to this. If we look at the electrical connection to this, it does require, so it does burn. It burns diesel fuel, but it needs a 12-volt battery to hook up to this to power the electronics, the fan, the motor. All of that is powered by 12 volts. And so it does have an included 12-volt cable. This is probably about 7-8 feet long. And so you'd have to hook this up to a 12-volt battery. It is fused, so you have a fuse protection on there. But that's kind of the one thing you don't get with this, is you don't have a 12-volt source to hook this up to. So where this would be good is if you have a vehicle, let's say a trailer, an RV, a truck, semi-truck that has a battery already, you can hook this right up to it, and then you can route the exhaust pipes and heater hoses to adjust from that. If you're mounting this in your home, like garage or shed or something, you'll need to have a 12-volt source, and we're going to use one just to kind of test this out. So that's how you would power this. All right, the unit is tipped on its side here, and I want to show you underneath here because there's two critical connections here that you have to use, and then this kind of makes it so you have to mount it in a location and a way that you have access to the bottom here. So first up is you get this pipe here. This is actually the intake. So the air that goes into the combustion chamber that is ignited, that would be the intake air, and that is mounted, that is the one closest to the air inlet. So on this side here, we would mount this here. There's actually a little cut through here. So we'd mount it there when we'd put a hose clamp on there to clamp that, and then we would clamp off this little, it's a little air filter, just so larger debris doesn't get sucked into the air intake. And then the other option here, now we do have this is the exhaust pipe. It comes with a little muffler, which is nice. It's going to help keep the sound down. But I've already bent this up to a 90-degree angle because it has to fit on here. So this is circular. It fits onto the bottom of this pipe here, and then we'd use a hose clamp to clamp that on, and then we could just use our muffler on the end here. Also, because it has another end here, we could do another length of hose of exhaust pipe to make it even further away. We want to keep the exhaust as far away from the intake side as possible, because we don't want to suck exhaust in through here and then pump it into our space that we're trying to heat. We want to make sure we're keeping the exhaust away from the heated space, away from the intake. So when we're looking at the mounting options, we want to make sure that we have enough area for this to clear, and that's why I have some wood blocks here. So if we turn this up like so, that gives us, having the heater sitting on some kind of wood block system like this, gets it off the ground, gives us some clearance right here. And then again, we can just put our exhaust, our little muffler here on the end. Now there are some included hose clamps, one here, and then two for this one. On the front of the heater unit is our display, so we'll get that turned on here in a minute as soon as we hook up to power. But there is an included, this is probably, I don't know, maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet of length of heater hose pipe. Now what this does is we do have some clamps that will clamp that on there, and we would do that. So we would use this pipe if we're close to the area that we want to heat. So the heater would be here, and then we would have this hose ran into our heated space here. So that's how we can use that. This may not be enough hose. I guess that's kind of the other thing you'll want to consider for your application. You may need to get an extended length of hose that you could hook onto here and run it into your heated space if this is not enough. So before I fill the tank up with diesel fuel, I want to make sure I get these connections secured down. So I want to take off my exhaust pipe, put my hose clamp on it, slip it back on, tighten that down. Now, one thing that I would caution you against is keeping this unit inside of the area that you want to heat, because there can be some exhaust leakage through these connections here, and then also where the muffler goes onto the end of the exhaust pipe. There can some exhaust could leak out. You just want to avoid that. So you want to keep this unit outside of your area, and then run the heater tube through into the area that you want to heat to avoid that as much as possible. This is the air inlet. Slip that hose clamp on in a way that you can get to it from the top. All right, I just got my diesel fuel put into the tank. This is actually 1.1 gallons. Probably could take 1.2, 1.3, so it's just over a gallon that this could hold, which is actually more than I originally thought it would be. The battery I'm going to try out and use with this is actually a little 12-volt, 9-amp-hour battery. This is something that was used like in a little kid's moped scooter thing, and it has these little terminal connections here on top. These little spade connectors. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to add the spade connectors to the end of our wiring harness, and then I'll be able to hook this up directly to there, the positive side, and the negative to the negative side. I just have these 2x6 boards. They're just set on their sides, and I'm just going to screw the heater into these because it gives me some clearance underneath it, so it allows this exhaust pipe to be here, and it's not sitting on the ground. It's sitting on this support. So I'm just going to put 2 screws here, 2 on that side, and that's going to keep it supported. All right, to get my air intake ready here, I just need to put a hose clamp on that as well. Cover on. Put my fuel cap back on. And then this cover just clips on to these slots right here. So we're just pushing the clip right into the slot, pull up, and do the same for both sides. All right, with power connected, this is our display here. I don't want to turn on yet. I don't really want to fire up the engine yet. But it looks like it's just going to give me the voltage of the battery, the current temperature. And then I'm going to get this outside, and I want to fire it up and see what kind of heat we get. Let me show you our setup here. So we got this outside. I've got my muffler and my exhaust pipe routed here. So it's kind of screwed into the wood here. There's it comes with a couple of these clamps that you can use to kind of secure the exhaust pipe into place. And we could use one over here we have another one here we could use for the intake. We'll leave that sitting right there. That's no problem there. And then I've got my battery hooked up. We've got our heater outlet is going to be going through the window. This is kind of a way that we could do it where, doing it through a window where you have part of the window blocked off, and then we could put a little bit of insulation right here. This is just for testing. I want to just see what kind of heat we get going through the window here. I'll put a little bit of insulation, maybe a towel or something, just to prevent the wind from going through. But I want to get this started up here. This is going to be our first start up here. Hit the power button here. Looks like we're getting a startup screen. We've got H1, 6, 5, 4, 1. All right, we've got some clicking going on here. Probably just priming the fuel pump. All right, you can hear the kind of clicking sound. I'm getting some exhaust, some heat coming out of the exhaust here. And we've got the fan going here. I have my battery set up to where I have the trickle charger still connected to the battery, the little battery, just to keep the charge on the battery, because I don't know how much power this is going to draw. Looks like we got a little ticking sound. I wonder if that's going to be the normal sound of this. Looks like it's heating up here. Okay, this is on the inside of my garage here, where I have my cardboard set up in the window. I have the heater pipe coming right through here, and there's a pretty strong flow of air here, and it's getting pretty warm. It's warm right now. It's not hot. It's warm. I think it's still warming up. So we'll let it run for a minute and kind of see how it works. This is kind of up and going now. It's warmed up. The air coming out was really warm, and you can kind of hear that little bit of a ticking sound. I think that's the sound of what this is going to make, since this is a diesel and just has that little bit of a sound to it. So the exhaust fumes are coming out here. I don't know if you can see there's a little bit of a black, diesel exhaust fumes coming out. I have my exhaust here, and my inlet is over here, so it's sucking the air in here from the outside, heating it, and then it's blowing inside. And this is my air intake for the combustion chamber. I want these facing away from the exhaust, because I don't want to suck in exhaust fumes into the air inlet and push those into my heated space. So the tube that it comes with is this one here. This one actually has some aluminum. It looks like it's more metallic inside, so it would hold its heat a little better. This one is just like a boat heater hose, something you use, a thin vinyl. It's not very insulative, so but it still is carrying the heat. 183 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature blowing out of there. The remote control it comes with is pretty small. It doesn't come with batteries, so if we turn this on here, it looks like it's saying P09 volt. Looks like I'm down to 9 volts on this battery, which it's actually still running. This thing's still running pretty good. I turned it down, turned that down, but I'm actually surprised this little battery has lasted so long. It's probably been on, this thing's probably been on for 45 minutes, and that battery was almost dead when I put it on there. I have a little trickle charger on it, but still, I'm pretty surprised that it's still running. So it just tells me this doesn't take a lot of power and can run pretty efficiently on the little power that it does have, and doesn't put out a lot of exhaust. The exhaust heat and fumes really is not that noticeable. Now I am outside, so it's not in an enclosed area, which is what you want. But it is nice. It has a remote that you can just turn this thing on or off. 202 degrees Celsius, that must be the, and then up here 8 degrees Celsius, that's the temperature outside. Now noise level is really not that bad at all. It's actually a lot quieter than I thought it would be. There is that little ticking sound. You can hear it from probably 30, 40 feet away still, very faintly. As you get closer, you can hear a little bit of a whine, which is going to be the air intake, sucking air in through here. But the exhaust, you don't really hear much of the motor sound. You really just hear a little ticking sound, which is the diesel engine. I think for a diesel, it runs really smooth. It's pretty efficient. It's not using a lot of diesel fuel to heat. So that tank of diesel fuel could last me quite a while. I just held down the on-off button, I turned it off, and there's just kind of a shutdown cycle it's going to go through as it shuts down. So overall, I'm really impressed with this little heater. I was actually surprised it did so well on the small little battery that I had that was not even charged at all. I just had that little trickle charger on it. I think if you had a good battery that had some bigger amp hour capacity, this thing could probably go for quite a while on a small amount of battery. So I'm impressed with that. It used very little diesel fuel, if any. I probably ran this for 45 minutes. No issues. I mean, it doesn't even look like the tank went down at all. The exhaust was very quiet as well. No issues or problems, no rattling. There's just that little ticking sound that you can hear from the motor. But I think that's a very good trade-off for what you get with this. So a couple things you want to know is you want to have a decent battery. So I think that's something that's not included, and that's something that either if you're going to install it in some kind of a vehicle, or a standalone situation like I kind of did, where it's heating a room or a building or some kind of an enclosed space, you want to have a good battery system. So having like a good deep cycle battery that has either solar charging, or it has some kind of a charger to regenerate it would be helpful. This wasn't included, this part. The one that was included is a little bit shorter than this one, and so for any kind of future application I'm going to use, I'm actually going to invest in a longer heater hose, so I can set this a little bit further away from the room I'm trying to heat or vehicle, and then I can run this up to it, and this will be further away. You don't have to worry about any of the noise or the emissions from the exhaust pipe here. But those are the two things to consider. I think it has its place. I think this is a really good option to have as like a backup heater for your house, kind of like emergency backup heater, because if it just runs on a battery and diesel fuel, you can run this with the power out. So if you're stuck in a situation where your power's out, you can't heat your home, you have this option. Also, I think this is a good option for like I have an enclosed trailer. I've had it on my channel before, but it's where I kind of do some work in there. I keep my dirt bike and things like that, and I keep some equipment. And so having something like this installed on the outside and then running the heater hose maybe up through the floor or somewhere into the compartment, that would be a great option, because then I could extend the use of it. If I needed to sleep in there, I could in the spring and fall time frame when it's getting colder, and that would be this would be a great source of heating, because I already have a battery installed in there. So if you stay tuned to the channel, I'm going to do that probably in the spring. The trailer is now put away from the winter; it's buried in snow, so I really don't have the option to install that to it right now. But just want to test out this heater. I'm impressed with it. I think it's a great option. Guys, see the link down below. Big shout out to Vevor for partnering with us on this video for this. Anyways, guys, leave your thoughts and comments down below. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.